Good afternoon, everyone. This is the case of the people of the state of Colorado versus James Egan Holmes, case number 12 CR 1522. The records reflect that Mr. Holmes is present with his attorneys, Ms. Brady, Ms. Higgs, and Ms. Nelson. And the people are represented by Mr. Orman, Ms. Pearson, Ms. Teach McGuire, and Mr. Edson. We are outside the presence of the jury, and we are scheduled at this time for the video recorded testimony of a defense mitigation witness who is apparently unavailable during the sentencing hearing. Is that correct? Ms. Higgs?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And I granted this motion late last week. Mr. Orman at one point indicated that this would prevent the jury from submitting questions to the witness through me, and that's true, but the defense has elected to proceed in this fashion because the witness is apparently unavailable during the actual sentencing hearing, and specifically the mitigation phase of the sentencing hearing as a result of a prepaid vacation. Is that right, Ms. Higgs?
Yes, Your Honor, a vacation that was scheduled back in January of this year, and it was unexpected that we would be here at this point in time for mitigation. I would also note for the court that it's our position that Mr. Holmes' right to present a defense and to present evidence in mitigation at a sentencing hearing would outweigh any concerns or policy or rules with regard to jurors being able to ask questions.
And I'm not disagreeing with that, so I just wanted to make a record that a complete record as to all the circumstances that are surrounding this, and the fact that everyone is aware that by proceeding in this fashion, the jury will not be able to ask questions of this particular witness through the court. All right, you may call your witness at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor. If we could start the video rolling, and then we will call him to the stand. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Your Honor, the defense calls Paul Carrer to the stand.
All right. Come around this way, please. If I could have you raise your right hand so that I can administer an oath. You solemnly swear or affirm on a penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please be seated. Could you please turn that microphone around so that it faces you to make sure we can all hear you? And then would you please tell us your full name for the record, and please spell your first, middle, and last names.
Okay. Paul Henry Carrer, K-A-R-R-E-R. I'm nervous.
And the first name is Paul, P-A-U-L?
Yes.
And your middle name is Henry, H-E-N-R-Y?
Correct.
All right. You may proceed with your direct examination, Ms. Higgs.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carr, it's okay to be nervous. It's an odd situation. Can you tell us where it is that you live in general?
I live in Monterey County. It's on the coast of California. It's about 17 miles from Castroville Elementary School.
And where is that? Northern, Central, Southern California?
It's exactly middle California.
Okay. How long have you lived there in that area?
28, 30 years.
Okay, quite some time.
Yes.
What do you do for a living there?
I'm an elementary school teacher. Currently I teach 5th grade.
How long have you been a teacher?
Oh my goodness, since 78, 34 years, give or take.
You said right now you're teaching 5th grade. Have you always taught 5th grade?
No, I've taught college in Korea. I taught English in Samoa. I did student teaching in England, 26 years at Castroville Elementary School. 3rd grade for a while, 4th grade for a while, but 5th grade forever.
Okay. How long is forever? Does that go back?
Oh, probably 20 years.
Okay. So sometime in the mid-90s, is that reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have a student by the name of James Holmes in your 5th grade class?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall what year that would have been?
1998, 1999.
Okay. I want to speak with you a little bit about your experience with James. Did you call him James when he was?
He was. It's difficult for me to call him James, or even Mr. Holmes seems very strange. He's Jimmy.
Okay.
And he's Jimmy to me.
I want to ask you. I know you're a little bit nervous.
I am.
To let me completely finish my question, so we're not talking over each other. As you know, it's being recorded, and I want to make sure the jury hears everything that you have to say. All right?
Yes.
Okay. So before we talk more about Jimmy, I'd like to talk to you about what does fifth grade look like, teaching a class in fifth grade?
Okay. Fifth grade usually is comprised of about 30 kids, give or take, usually 15, if you're lucky, 15 boys, 15 girls. Fifth grade is a very nice time, which is why I've done it for so long. Fifth grade teachers in California teach all subjects, some math, reading, English, science, social studies, art, all of those things. It's a very nice time because the kids, to be honest, don't really know about sex or drugs yet. They're at their peak. I have a daughter, and they become unpleasant later. And that's not true in fifth grade.
Okay. So sort of before the teenage
they're admiring, and they'll put little chocolate bars on your desk, and they're sweet and kind.
Are they with you all day?
They are with me all day.
Okay.
Except for lunch and breaks.
Right. So, but every subject?
Every subject all day.
Was that the case in 1998 and 1999 when you had Jimmy in your class?
Yes.
And tell me when did the school year start and finish?
You mean month-wise?
Correct.
Okay. School begins early in August and ends early in June. So around August, for example, this year, August 7th or so, we have to go back to school, and we finish June 5th or 6th, depending on where weekends are.
Okay. So
it's been that way forever.
I'm counting.
We have 185, 187 school days per year in California.
So that would be a full 6 months of time throughout a period of about, 10 months that you would actually be in daily contact with Jimmy?
Full 6 months?
Well, you said 187 days.
I'm going to object to him being referred to as Jimmy. The court's been very clear that people will be referred to by their last names or as the defendant.
Sustained. I'll let the witness, if he wants to refer to him as such, he can, but counsel should refer to him as Mr. Holmes. Go ahead.
Your Honor, if I may approach.
Yes.
That's awkward since
The objection remains sustained. All right, you may proceed.
Let me recollect where we were. Oh, Mr. Carr, what's the age range of fifth graders?
Usually 10 or 11, once in a while 12 if a child's been retained.
What do you mean retained?
They stay back a year for performance previously.
Can you tell me a little bit about Castroville Elementary School, how big it was, what grades it contained?
Sure. Castroville Elementary School, at that time?
Yes.
Okay, at that time, we were K through fifth grade, K being kindergarten, and there was about 500 kids, give or take.
Okay. And the Castroville community, was it a large community?
Oh, it's very small. At that time, it was about 5,000 people.
And were there a couple other neighborhoods around the Castroville town that people would live in and still come to your school?
Yeah, there are two main communities, and one is the community immediately that the school is in. That's kind of Castroville Center. Tends to be low socioeconomic Latino kids there. They're mostly in agriculture, farming. And then Oak Hills is nearby. So there are two different feeder regions for the school.
Okay. Is this generally a rural and
Oh,
agricultural?
yes. Yeah, it's really rural.
Okay.
Mr. Kerr,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to echo what Ms. Higgs said earlier, and that is you need to wait until she finishes her
sorry.
questions. That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
You're doing it to me too. That's all right. We do it in everyday life, but here it's important to wait. Even if you can anticipate what the question is or what the end of the question is, you have to wait because otherwise my court reporter can't take down everything that's being said. Okay?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right. Ms. Higgs, you may continue.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
And I'm approaching with D-TR-99. And Mr. Carr, if you could just take a look at that for a moment. Do you recognize that?
I do. There's a mistake.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. Is that the yearbook sort of class photo of the fifth grade class that you had James Holmes in?
Yes.
Okay. And is that a fair and accurate copy of that photo, or have there been any changes?
No changes, but
Have some of the names of the other students been marked out?
all of them.
Yes. Okay. Other than that, for those names being marked out for privacy reasons, does that accurately reflect that class that you had with Mr. Holmes?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Your Honor, we would move for admission of D-TR-99.
Is there any objection?
I believe it says third grade on it, not fifth.
And we'll get to that.
Well, I would object to it because it's not a fifth grade picture as he's just illustrated. It says it's third grade.
All right, Ms. Higgs, do you want to make a record about that, or do you want to
Certainly.
ask him about that?
Mr. Carr, you said there's an error on that page.
Yeah, it should say grade 5. And
that
it says
just-
grade 3. It's a common mistake.
A typographical error?
Yes.
Same error that was actually in the yearbook that year?
Yes.
Okay. Indeed, though, that was a fifth grade class, is that right?
Yes.
Your Honor, we would move for admission of D-TR-99.
With that additional record, is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Without objection, it is admitted.
And Mr. Carr, do you see the student that, do you see Mr. Holmes in that?
I do.
Okay. Do you see him seated here at council table with us today as well?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Carr, with that particular class from 1998 to 1995 that's represented in that photo, was there something about that particular class that stood out for you in your memory?
Yes. They're a small group of kids is called a cohort, and there was the cohort in this group of kids that were far above average was just phenomenal. It's about 5 or 6 kids that were just kind of off the scale for ability and performance. And Jimmy was one of them, and he, to be honest, was the leader of the pack, which is why I remember them. It's unusual to have 5 or 6 kids from that area just shine academically.
Was this a class that a lot of teachers remembered going through Castroville Elementary?
Yes.
Okay.
And we would fight to get them.
When you say a cohort of 5 or 6 students, do some of those students still live in the Castroville area?
Yes.
Have you kept in touch with some of them?
Yes.
Have you had occasion over the years to talk to them about that class and about James Holmes?
Yes.
I just want to be clear for the jury, some of those discussions with them, has that kind of refreshed your memory about things that happened way back in 1998?
Yes. Yeah, I didn't remember it, and they brought it back, and I went, whoa, correct.
After talking with them, do you have an independent recollection of some of those things?
Yes. Sorry.
Sorry, it's okay. Some of those things that we're going to talk about here in a minute?
Yes.
All right. And also to be clear for the jury, the last time that you saw James Holmes, that was in 5th grade, correct?
Yes.
You have not kept in touch with him, nor he with you since then?
No.
All right. So let's talk about this smart group of kids. Describe how they interacted with each other.
There were 5 or 6 of them, and they had a wonderful ability to pull not only themselves up, they were very competitive with each other, but it pulled up even the lower kids. Usually there's a bell curve in a class. You know, you have super high performers, medium performers, low performers. And this high group that Jimmy was a member of, they just pulled everybody up together. And it was a pleasant rivalry. The kids were not mean-spirited. It was a really nice thing to see and very unusual, which is why I remember it.
Did it pull the class up behavior-wise?
Yes. Yeah, it was a nice class in every way for academics and behavior.
Okay. I want to now sort of have you describe a little bit about James Holmes specifically within that group. What do you recall about him and his demeanor?
I recall that he was very pleasant, that he smiled. He was a smiler. Well-kept, kempt, dressed neatly, caused me no grief. The kids liked him a lot. And there was no dark side.
Did he
I trusted him a lot.
Okay.
In fact, and he would finish, he and another kid, Chris, can I say names?
Yeah.
He and another child, Chris Chun, were really running things, and they had this rivalry going. But they finished their work all the time, so what does a teacher do with, you have to do this balance all the time of high ability kids, low ability kids, and medium, and Jimmy and Chris and a couple other kids would finish their work. And it wouldn't be wrong. What do you do? So they said, can we start a computer, can we do a website? And I said, basically, okay, what's that? Because this is a long time ago. And so they wrote code. They did a website. Jimmy and Chris did a website, and they did the coding, and I didn't know what the heck they were doing, but I trusted them to do that. They sat in the corner, where I would have my back to them, so that means I trusted them. And they did it, and then I say, so don't tell me how you did this because I don't get it. How does it work? And, like that. And things like that. And there's no way I would ever trust kids to do that unless they had the ability, and I know they're going to accomplish the task. And this is just so good in so many ways. It also sets a precedence for the other kids in class because they think, hey, if I do my work and I do something to completion, maybe I can do something like that too. It just pulls everybody up.
Sounds like almost...
And it was way out of my ability.
Okay. It sounds like Mr. Holmes, James Holmes, did a little teaching himself.
To me, for that, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember anything about that website that you had back then that they made?
Yeah, I do. Boy, they showed me, and they were doing the line coding, which was like Chinese to me.
So let me stop you there for a second. You're talking about line coding?
Yes, to create the website in those days, you had to write code. HTML, I believe it was, and it's laborious. It's not like now you go click, click, move, click. No, sentences and code. It's another language, and it's not one that I knew. So they did that. But the thing that I remember the most about it was they put on a world that rotated. And the purpose of this in the end was so the parents and the kids could see what homework was. What are we going to do for field trips? Please read X amount of books. It's an update, so the parents could check.
Mm-hmm. Were you impressed with his work?
Well, very much so.
Okay. I want to, Your Honor, if I can approach the witness with two other documents, D-TR-100 and D-TR-98. I have
Yes.
already shown them to the prosecution.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Carr, if you can look at those for a moment and then look up at me when you're done. Oh, excellent. Thank you. One last question. Did Mr. Holmes appear to thrive in your school?
Yes, he did. He did really well.
Okay.
He did really well. He got awards regularly. And
Let's.
okay.
Yeah, we're going to talk about those two documents. I know you're looking down at them. Are those the first document? I believe is sort of a grade report for that year. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that a report that you are required to keep in the course of your duties as a teacher at the school?
Yes.
And is that a report that you filled out, sort of the meat and potatoes of that grade
Yes.
report?
Yeah, it's my report card for him.
Okay. And it covers what time period?
We had 4 semesters then, and this is the first 3 semesters of that year. 19.
Does it appear to accurately reflect your handwriting and what you wrote on his grade report
Yes,
for those?
especially the part I can't read that's smudged. That's me. Yes.
And is that something that your school actually keeps in the regular course of its business in education?
Yes, we're required to.
Okay. Your Honor, I would move now for the admission of, I think that's D-TR-100. Can you look at the number on the back?
DTR-100.
Yes.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, D-TR-100 is admitted.
Thank you. Can you just sort of read for us and talk to us about what is written on that report card for your students?
Okay. It's an assessment of academics, and he has all A's and 2 B's for 3 semesters, and then I comment on each semester. And do you want me to read the comment?
Yes, please.
Okay. So for first semester, it says, "Wow, what a neat kid. Handwriting is serious and frightening. He has 8 A's and 2 B's, and he's on Teacher's Honor Roll. Teacher's Honor Roll is special at that time. There was regular honor roll, and then this is like the Yale School of Awards. He was on Teacher's Honor Roll. And then also I taught the kids chess, and so I wheedled in my own little chess grade on here. That's an addition on all the report cards. And it says the chess grade was just for fun, but he got A minus, A minus, A.
Was that not really a real grade?
It's fake, but it was for fun because the kids would come in at lunchtime and play chess with me.
Okay.
And then I wrote second semester, 8 A's, 2 B's. Jimmy can get sloppy with his writing. Mine's messier. Teacher's honor roll again. And then third semester, same thing, teacher's honor roll. So, I mean, he was there, always.
Okay.
And not a word about negative behavior because it wasn't an issue.
I'd like you to look at the second document, D-TR-98. Now that paper actually represents 2 documents, is that right?
Yes.
And are those the types of sort of cards or notes that you would send back home to your students' parents?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the purpose in doing that?
I used to try to do PR with the parents, positive PR, And so it's good to send a positive note home to parents about kids, because then when you have grief later on, you've kind of gone over the rough part and you have something in your pocket to go for. So this is a positive note to Jimmy's parents. Can I read it? It's short.
Not
Okay,
yet.
Okay.
Do you recognize your signature
Oh
on
yeah,
both
these are
of
mine.
those?
Yeah.
Recognize your handwriting?
Yes, absolutely.
Is that also something that you did commonly in the course of
I
your...
still do this.
Do you recognize the stamp on there?
I do.
You still have that
I
stamp?
do.
Your Honor, we're going to move for admission of D-TR-98.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, it is admitted.
All right. If you could read those one at a time.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so the one is for parents. It says, Dear Holmes, thanks for letting Jimmy set up my computer with net zero over vacation. So that means we must have had a break, say, I'm going to guess, but I'll bet I'm right. Christmas vacation, he continued to work on it. So this is a thank you for doing that.
Okay. When you say he continued to work on it, what are you talking about?
I'm sorry, the computer website.
Okay. Is that what you're referring to when it says net zero?
Yeah, net zero was the provider,
Okay.
and probably it was free back then, so that's why we used net zero then.
Okay. And the second note?
Okay, second one is whenever the kids did a project, I would always give them an assessment, and it's always good to give feedback to the kids and the parents. So I can't remember what the project was, but he did a project. So it says, great project, thorough questions, and interesting. Paul Carr, and I put an A on it, and then and a stamp, and I have my little swirl, because sometimes the kids would forge these. So it's forgery proof this way.
Is that something Jimmy ever did, or Mr. Holmes ever tried to do?
No.
No.
He didn't need to.
Right. You also had talked about I want to back up a little bit to that computer project that you talked about. And I just want to ask you some questions about James's work on that, or Mr. Holmes' work on that project, okay? You said allowing him to do that meant you knew you trusted him. Is that right?
Yes.
Was he able to work pretty independently in your class?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
That's why he got to do that.
You said he got all A's and just a couple B's. Was that reflective of his work all the time?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Good student?
Yes. And in fact, as they look at this first semester, he increases in the amount of A's that he gets each semester because he's improving.
Do you have any memory of him ever being disruptive in your class?
No, I mean, he was a fifth grade kid, and he may have done small stuff. I don't remember. But if there was anything big, I would have remembered,
Okay.
and such is not the case.
Now, do you have any recollection of meeting his parents at all?
No, and that's usually a good thing.
Explain that.
We have parent conferences twice a year, and usually the parents that we need to see, those kids don't come. And the parents that their children do really well, we don't need to see them. Did I misspeak? Did I say that correctly? Or did I flip it? Can I say that again?
Absolutely.
All right. Children whose parents I need to see don't show up. And kids who do really well, their parents show up, and there's not much to say to them. I can't, they look familiar to me, actually.
Uh-huh.
So.
You see them here in the courtroom?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But usually if there's no problem, then it's not locked into my brain.
So the fact that you don't have a recollection of them would mean you probably didn't have any issues at all
Correct.
to explain to them?
Correct.
Okay. You do a running race with your students in your
When
class.
I was younger, back then, yes.
Explain what that race is and why you do it.
Okay. At PE time or recess, I would race the kids. And so this is many years ago. And when the kids were good, I would give them tickets. And tickets are, if a kid gets X amount of tickets, I would buy them pizza. Or if they're gabbing and they're in trouble, I would say, hey, I want 5 tickets. It could be a punitive thing. But if they beat me in a race, which no one had ever done, they get 25 tickets. So we all line up and we run a quarter of a mile to the fence and run back. You know, and everybody wants to beat the teacher, right? And I'll tell you the truth, I gave it everything I had. And he beat me.
Is he the first kid to do that?
He beat me. Yes, he was. Because the kids in the class wouldn't let me forget.
Do you recall how he reacted to that?
I don't, but I'm sure he was pleased with himself.
Was he a good sport about it?
Probably.
Can you tell us what impressed you the most about James Holmes when he was in your class?
That he was high ability, and quite often when kids are super high, there's not a balance there. Sometimes they need a lot of attention, and he was balanced. He had it all. He was like a Renaissance child. No, he was, and because he had academic ability. The kids liked him.
Be a popular kid?
Yes. You know, they played together. The kids were telling they played soccer at his house. They messed around, you know, but he was just even and positive and smiled and attentive.
Was he ever rude or impolite with you?
No, I don't think so.
What about with the other kids? Ever mean or have problems with the other kids?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's something that would stand out to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And plus, you know, the kids have a reputation that comes to us from the previous class, and if there was trouble, I would have heard it, and it wasn't.
So you were aware that James Holmes had been in Castroville Elementary for several years before he got to your class.
And it was a very desirable class, and the teachers say, "Oh, you're going to get Jimmy and Chris and Michael, and that's a good thing." You go, "Yes."
How does generally, is that school a fairly small school? Would you describe it that way?
We are now, currently we're kindergarten through 6th grade, so we have a whole nother group of kids. We're about 650. We're packed.
Okay. But back then it was smaller?
Yes, oh yeah.
The school as a whole, did you kind of really treat these kids as your own?
Oh, I always do.
Okay.
Yeah,
And you do especially?
yeah, I still do.
All right.
I help many of them still. I have some that go to prison, and I visit them during the summer when school is out. I invite them to come to Monterey. We have a pizza party. Not all show up, but yes, I maintain contacts with my kids.
Especially the ones that stay in the area?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell the jury why it is that you chose to come testify here today on behalf of Mr. Holmes?
Your Honor, relevance?
Motion to, I'd ask you to approach.
Yes, please. Okay, the objection is sustained in part and overruled in part. Ms. Hicks, you may proceed as we discussed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carr, did the kid that you knew by Jimmy, James Holmes, when he was in your fifth grade class, did he have an impact on you?
Then.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a really bright kid. He's the kind of kid in his group, or the kind of kid that makes teaching very rewarding, and makes you want to keep on doing what you're doing. And he was an example for the kids, and and he's shown a little light on, for example, the computer is an example. I mean, he was teaching me something.
Is this a kid that you cared about?
Yeah, yes.
Would you say that you continue to care about him in some sense?
That's why I'm here.
Support him?
Very much so.
I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Can I can read what this says? I figured out what I wrote on the report card. No, we're done?
No, that's fine.
Okay. It says, wow, what a neat kid. Handwriting, he's serious, he's highly productive, and then also says, Jimmy can get sloppy with his writing. He sacrifices length sometimes for quality. But
If I put some sort of criticism in there,
yeah,
and that was all you could come up with?
that's all I could come up with.
And I'm glad that you stopped me because I forgot to approach with this, if I may approach, Your Honor.
You may.
T-TR-101. Mr. Carr,
Is your microphone back on, Ms. Hicks?
it is.
Okay.
Now, sorry.
That's all right.
Mr. Carr, did you have a chance to look at that video disc previously?
Yes, I did.
And are your initials on that?
They are.
Okay. Is that a short video clip of James when he was receiving an award at your school?
Yes.
And did you recognize yourself in that video?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, we have moved for admission of D-TR-101.
Any objection, Ms. Pearson?
Could I ask a voir dire question?
Yes.
You know when that was taken? It's undated, isn't it?
It had to be in that year. It would be it's an award assembly, so we had an award assembly each term. So it would have been at the end of one of the semesters in 1998 to 1999.
And you know that that's during the year you were teaching him and not one of the other years that
No,
he was in the
I am in it with him.
Okay, no objection.
All right, without objection, it is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. So tell us a little bit about these award ceremonies that you would have at the end of every semester.
Okay. We try to be positive and give positive reinforcement for the kids. It's really good for the parents to see that. It's very uplifting. It encourages them. And so this particular one was, I believe it probably was at the end of an award ceremony. He could have received many other awards during this, and probably did. But this one that I looked at was for attendance.
Okay.
So that means he had 100% attendance. He went to school every day.
And you recognized yourself on that video?
And my voice, I recognize my voice as well.
Okay, and which person are you?
I am wearing a white shirt, and I'm on the left.
Okay, kind of back by the table.
Yes.
We're not playing it right now because the jury's not here, but I want them to understand that when they do see it.
Yes, and I'm wearing glasses.
And there's a person there that's announcing. Do you know who that person was?
Yes, that's our principal, Lori Bloom Sweeney.
Okay.
May we approach?
Yes. Ms. Hicks?
Laura Bloom Sweeney, is she also in that class photo
Yes, she is.
next to you?
Yes.
And is she still the principal there at the
No,
school?
she is not.
But she was for many years.
Yes.
Do you think that the kid you knew as Jimmy, Mr. Holmes, was a positive influence on your fifth grade class?
Totally.
On all of those students?
Yes.
On you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any cross-examination? Ms. Pearson?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Carr, my name's Karen Pearson. I'm one of the prosecutors on this case. Mr. Carr, you indicated that you had to be reminded from other students about the defendant. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't have to be reminded, but they brought it up. So they brought recall to me, yes.
Are some of your recollections based on them remembering things and you adopting those things?
Adopting? No, they would bring it up in a discussion, and in fact, I said, how can you guys remember that stuff? And they said, Mr. Carr.
I would ask you not to say what other people said
okay.
to you. Now, you haven't seen the defendant since he finished your fifth grade class in 1999, correct?
Correct.
And you were asked to identify him in the courtroom today. Would it be
Correct.
fair to say the only reason you can identify him is based on photographs that you've seen of him in the news?
He looks pretty much the same.
The same as he looked in fifth grade?
Yeah.
And you didn't know him before he was in the fifth grade, correct?
I saw him at school.
He was in your school for several years?
Yes.
But once he finished fifth grade, he went to a different school,
Correct.
and then you never saw him again, is that correct?
Correct.
So you don't know what kind of person he became in junior high, correct?
Correct.
Or in high school,
Correct.
or in college,
Correct.
or in graduate school,
All of those.
or what kind of an adult he became?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any redirect? Ms. Hicks?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you. May he be released from his subpoena, Ms. Hicks?
Yes, he may, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right. You're free to go.
Thanks. Sorry for over-talking.
All right, thank you. That's okay. That concludes the videotape testimony of Mr. Carr. Okay, thank you. All right, the camera is off now, and what I propose is that we take a short break, about a 10-minute break, and then we proceed with additional discussions about instructions and the Curtis advisement and that kind of thing. Is that okay with everyone? Yes? Okay, let's do that. The court will be in recess for about 10 minutes. Thank you.